So there's this new XPS 13 in town. I've reviewed a lot of XPS devices on this channel. This one here is the one from early 2019. Very well reviewed device. I really like this machine. I think a lot of people do. It's not cheap, but they're good. Everything across the board is quite solid on this device, and everything carries over to this new model. Like the screen, the keyboard, the chassis, battery, everything remains the same, except they now have the option for these crazy 6-core 10th gen Intel CPUs. These are extremely powerful. They boost up to like 4.7 gigahertz. It's the most powerful CPU that Intel's made for a 15-watt TDP. And the fact that Dell fit that CPU into this thin and light 13-inch device is pretty crazy. It is literally the only 13-inch laptop on the market right now with a 6-core CPU. It's pretty bonkers. So I ran some benchmarks, and for multi-core stuff, the scores are very good. Not only is it better than the older XPS 13 by quite a bit, it's pushing numbers that are very similar to like 15-inch gaming laptops. Like this thing is crazy good for burst multi-core performance. So things like benchmarks are gonna do really well on this machine on like a single run. But with CPUs, like the more cores you have, the more power. But the more power you have comes more responsibility, but also comes heat. And that's where this thing starts to have problems. If you run benchmarks for an extended period of time where the CPU is pushed hard for the entire time, like after 50, maybe 60 seconds, performance starts to dip. Stuff gets hot, the clock speed drops, and just the whole idea of a 6-core CPU in such a small laptop starts to become less appealing. I tried this with Cinebench and Prime 95, so some benchmarks, and also tried it with Adobe Premiere. Like I ran a render that just went for a relatively long period of time. It just cannot maintain a high boost clock for an extended period of time. Now some of that is because of thermal constraints because it's a 13-inch device, but it's also because it's only getting 15 watts. Like there's a lot of kind of limitations that Dell has placed on this chip because it's in this chassis. There's two ways to look at this 6-core device. If you compare it to the previous model of the XPS 13, it is better, even if you take into account all the thermal limitations. But if you look at this 6-core XPS 13 and you imagine what it could have been if they pumped more wattage into it and they revamped the thermal system to take advantage of the processor, it could have been a lot better, especially because there are other companies out there that are making 14 and 15-inch laptops that can cool this chip quite well. But as it stands, if you want a 6-core CPU in a 13-inch device, the XPS 13 is it's the only option. I will say, if you are a developer and your compile time isn't like super long, I think this is a pretty decent fit if you can afford it. And again, I don't want to take away from the regular configurations of the XPS 13. Like this is specifically a commentary about the 6-core version. The regular stuff, I'll post a link to it below, but I've done reviews on like the more cheaper configurations. It's an excellent device. I just don't know if the 6-core CPU is a particularly good fit for this chassis. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it. See you guys next time.